Life has a strange way of twisting our paths, sometimes leading us into the uncanny, the unsettling, and the downright terrifying. Let's explore a series of true stories that serve as chilling reminders to trust your gut, stay vigilant, and hold on to the people you care about. This happened to my older sister Anna when I was about 15. She was 19 at the time, fresh out of high school, and like most people in our province in the Philippines, she dreamed of working abroad. Opportunities back home were scarce, and overseas jobs were seen as the best way to help your family. House helpers, factory workers, cleaners. Filipinos do it all because even those jobs pay more than anything you can earn at home. Anna wanted that for us. She always said, "If I can work abroad, I'll send money home. We can fix the roof and maybe send you to college." She was determined, and we were proud of her. One day she got a call from a woman in Manila offering her a job at a hotel in the Middle East. The woman promised free housing, free food, and a good salary. Anna only needed to pay for her plane ticket and some processing fees. It sounded perfect. The woman even sent documents with hotel logos and stamps to prove everything was legitimate. Anna believed her, and so did we. I still remember seeing Anna off at the bus terminal. My parents couldn't afford to go with her to Manila, so she had to make the trip alone. She hugged me tight and said, "I'll call as soon as I get there." She was smiling, excited, and hopeful. I was proud of her, but worried at the same time. Something in my gut felt wrong, but I didn't want to ruin her moment. She left to meet the agency in Manila, and from there, she was supposed to fly out to start her new life. Or so we thought. 2 days passed and there was no word from my sister. We told ourselves she was busy or adjusting to her new place, but when we tried calling the number the woman gave us, it didn't work. That's when panic set in. My dad borrowed money from a neighbor and went to Manila to look for Anna. He went to the agency address, but when he got there, it was an abandoned building. The agency didn't exist. The job didn't exist. Anna was gone. We reported everything to the police, but the waiting was torture. Every time the phone rang, we hoped it was her. Every knock at the door felt like it might bring her back. Weeks turned into months, and the police finally came back with answers we didn't want to hear. They told us Anna had been scammed. The woman wasn't recruiting workers for a hotel. She was part of a human trafficking ring. Anna had been taken, likely sold to another country. Police explained this happens to a lot of Filipinos, especially those from the provinces. These scammers know how to target people who are desperate for work, offering fake jobs with high pay and good benefits. Once they lure someone in, they disappear, leaving families like ours broken and searching for answers. My parents were devastated. My mom blamed herself for not seeing the signs. For me, it felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My sister, who just wanted to help us, was gone, and we had no way to find her. It's been years now, and I've moved to Canada to work as a nurse. It was Anna's dream to work abroad, and in a way, I feel like I'm living it for her. But no matter how far I go, or how much time passes, I still think about her. I was 17 when my family uprooted and moved halfway across the country. It was hard adjusting. New school, new people, and no one I could really call a friend. Loneliness hit me hard. So when I got a random friend request from Eli, someone I vaguely recognized from my old school, I didn't think twice about accepting. Eli wasn't someone I had been close to, just a guy who had occasionally hung around my friend group. He was quiet, a little awkward, and always seemed to fade into the background. The friend request came with a message. "Hey, remember me? It's been a while. I saw your name pop up and thought I'd say hi." We started talking. At first it was casual, school memories, small talk, and catching up. Over time, though, Eli became a real good friend. He was someone I could vent to about my struggles, and he always seemed to have advice. He claimed to be in college now, juggling classes and a part-time job. We bonded over our shared introversion and struggles to fit in. Eli was always online when I needed him, always ready to listen. He even helped me with my college applications when the time came, offering to look over my essays and share tips on scholarships. I started to feel like I had a real friend again, even if he wasn't physically there. Looking back, there were oddities I ignored. Eli never posted pictures of himself, only generic images, Landscapes, memes, random quotes. His friends list was small, with few mutual friends. He never wanted to do video calls, claiming his webcam was broken. Once, when I asked about his life outside of school, he dodged the question with a vague answer about being too busy. But I brushed it all aside. Why would I question someone who had been so kind and helpful? I told myself it didn't matter, not realizing just how wrong I was. 2 years later, I visited my old hometown during a school break. Excited to reconnect with old friends, I messaged Eli, hoping we could meet up. His response was cold. I don't think that's a good idea. It hurt, but I shrugged it off. When I met up with my old friend group at a local diner, I was shocked to see Eli there. He looked exactly as I remembered. Quiet, reserved, but undeniably real. I smiled, ready to finally chat in person. But Eli looked at me blankly. "Do I know you?" he asked. I thought he was joking, but his expression never wavered. I reminded him about our messages, about all the times we'd talked over the past 2 years. He furrowed his brow and shook his head. "I don't even have Facebook," he said. "I've never talked to you." My stomach dropped. I tried to argue, but my other friends confirmed it. Eli wasn't active on social media, and he had no idea what I was talking about. Confused and panicking, I logged into my account on my phone and showed everyone the messages. That's when things got even stranger. Eli leaned in, his face pale as he stared at the profile. That's my dog," he said quietly, pointing to the profile picture. It was an old photo of a golden retriever. She died years ago. His voice was shaking. "How did they even get this?" he asked me. I had no answer. All this time I thought I was talking to him. It was like the entire diner went silent. My head was spinning. The messages, the advice, the years of talking. It had felt so real. But this Eli, the one standing right in front of me, clearly had nothing to do with it. Then Eli pointed at the name on the profile. "That's not even my last name," he said. "That's my mom's maiden name. I don't use it anywhere. How the hell do they know that?" I felt sick. Everything about this profile, the details, the photos, even the way they had spoken to me, it was all so personal. But it wasn't Eli. My friends tried to reassure me, but I couldn't let it go. I opened up the message history, scrolling through years of chats, looking for something, anything, that would make sense. Then I noticed something else. A lot of the photos on the fake Eli's account weren't just of Eli. They were candid shots of him at soccer games, taken from the stands. He told me once during a chat that his brother had taken them, but the real Eli shook his head. "My family doesn't even come to my games," he said. Who the hell took these?" That's when it hit me. Whoever this was, they weren't just impersonating Eli. They were watching him, watching us. They knew things, little details about our lives that no stranger could possibly know. I felt like my skin was crawling. Every chat, every secret I'd shared with this person flashed through my mind. How much had I told them? What had I given away? I typed a message to the fake profile, still shaking. "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" I hit send, but before I could even blink, the account was gone. Deleted. Erased. Just like that, 2 years of messages disappeared into thin air. Eli and I just stared at each other, completely freaked out. I wanted answers, but none of it made sense. The photos, the details, the way they always knew what to say. It was too personal, too deliberate. Over the next few days, I reported the account to Facebook, but there was nothing they could do. The account was gone, and so was whoever had been behind it. Eli and I stayed in touch for a while after that, but honestly, I think it freaked him out as much as it did me. I mean, someone had been following him for years, using his identity to manipulate me, and it didn't end there. A few months later, I got a message from my mom. She'd found a Facebook profile under her name, but the photos were of me. My old school photos, random pictures I'd posted years ago, everything. Whoever this was, they hadn't stopped. They just moved on to the next fake life. I still don't know who it was or why they did it. Were they just messing with me, watching me? Or was it something worse? I'll probably never know. But now, every time I get a random friend request, I hesitate. I think about all the things I told that fake Eli, all the secrets they now know. And every time I wonder, are they still out there pretending to be someone else? Watching me from behind another fake account? If it can happen to me, then it can happen to just about anybody. So, this happened years ago when I was about 10, back when my family and I lived in this quiet little coastal town. It was one of those places where you felt safe, like nothing bad could ever really happen. Anyway, it was a cold autumn evening, and my mom was busy cleaning up because some family friends were coming over. She told me to go to my room and pick up my stuff. I wasn't thrilled, but I went. As I was tidying up, I decided to pull back the curtains to let in some light from the moon, make the room feel a little less gloomy. That's when I saw it, or thought I did. There was this shadow, just barely visible between the trees down the driveway. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe it was just an animal or something, but I kept thinking about it. Still, I closed the curtains and moved on. When I went back to the living room to grab a snack, I couldn't shake this weird feeling. Like when you just know something's off. I told my mom I thought I saw something outside, and she laughed it off, saying I was imagining things. I didn't push it because, honestly, I was trying to convince myself she was right. But back in my room, things got weird. The window, the one I definitely closed, it was open. Just a tiny crack. My stomach dropped. I locked it again. I couldn't stop thinking about it as I was sure that I locked it. It was a habit of mine to do so. I sat on my bed, trying to distract myself with the TV, when I heard this noise. Like a light scratching sound, my heart jumped. It was coming from the window. I froze for a second, staring at the glass, and at first all I saw was my reflection. But then, I saw a face, pressed right up against the glass. He had these hollow eyes, so dark they looked like bruises, and he wasn't moving, just staring, like he was trying to see past the reflection into the room. I couldn't even process what I was looking at for a second. What do you do in that moment? I felt like I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. I screamed for my mom. That snapped me out of it. He must have heard me yell, because he suddenly bolted. I don't even know where he went. He just disappeared into the shadows. My mom came rushing in, and I could barely get the words out to explain what happened. She calmed me down and told me to stay in my room while she went to the door, because of course the freaking doorbell rang right then. She wouldn't let me see who it was, but when she came back, she looked off, like pale and shaken. She didn't tell me what the guy at the door had said, just that it was fine and I should go to bed. But it wasn't fine. I could feel it. Months later, I overheard her talking to a neighbor about some guy who'd been arrested. Turns out, he was lurking around houses in the area, pretending to deliver food. But the kicker? When they caught him, they found the body of a missing teenage girl in his house. That hit me like a ton of bricks. That guy, the one at my window, wasn't just some random creep. He was looking for someone, and it could have been me if my mom hadn't been home that night. I still think about it sometimes, how close I came. And yeah, I never sleep with the curtains open anymore. I don't even like looking out windows at night. It just feels wrong, like someone might be out there, watching. This happened when I was super broke and just trying to get by. I'd just moved out on my own, and money was tight, like ramen for every meal tight. I was desperate for work and started looking on Craigslist for quick gigs. Cleaning jobs, house sitting, stuff like that. Honestly, not the safest way to find work, but I was running out of options. One day, I came across this ad from a guy who said he was disabled and needed help with his daily routines. Bathing, getting dressed, things like that. It paid really well, like way better than most of the other ads I'd seen, and I figured, hey, I've done caregiver stuff before. Nothing weird about it. So, I replied to the ad. The guy called me a few hours later. He sounded normal, friendly, polite, even a little charming. He told me he'd recently had back surgery and just needed someone to help him out for a couple of days. The plan was for me to come by in the evening, help him with his nighttime routine, stay overnight, and then help him again in the morning. It sounded easy, and he was offering $200 cash up front. I thought, why not? When I got to his place, it was already dark. He lived in this townhouse that was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Not sketchy exactly, but not exactly welcoming either. He opened the door, and honestly, he seemed fine. Late 30s, maybe early 40s, clean-shaven, using a cane to walk. He thanked me for coming and handed me the $200 right away, which made me feel a little more comfortable. But as soon as I stepped inside, I had a bad feeling about all of it. The place was too clean, like he'd scrubbed it top to bottom. It didn't look lived in. No clutter, no personal touches, just bare furniture and empty walls, and the air. It smelled like chemicals, like bleach or something. It made my head wheezy. I tried to ignore it since I really needed the money. Maybe he'd just cleaned up before I got there. He offered me a glass of wine. I refused, but he kept insisting, telling me I should relax. It was weird. I don't think someone who just had surgery should be drinking alcohol. Then he made a comment about how cute I was. Big red flag, right? But I was broke and I didn't want to overreact. I just laughed it off and said thanks. But let's stick to what we talked about. He seemed to take the hint and led me to the bathroom so I could help him with his shower. The second he started undressing, I knew I'd made a big mistake. He wasn't shy about it at all. And, well, let's just say it was obvious he was enjoying the situation way too much. I kept my cool, gave him the quickest, least sensual shower in human history, and got him into his pajamas as fast as I could. He said goodnight and went into his bedroom. I was staying in the guest room right next to his, and I was lying in bed, trying to convince myself I'd overreacted. But then I heard footsteps. I peeked out into the hallway and saw him walking to the bathroom, without his cane. The guy who could barely shuffle around earlier was suddenly moving just fine. The worst part? I could see him carrying a giant bottle of lotion. My gut screamed at me to get out of there. I grabbed my stuff as quietly as I could. The problem was, his townhouse had these baby gates on every stairwell to keep his cat from escaping. I had to climb over them in the dark without making a sound. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he'd hear it. As I made it down the last set of stairs, I heard his bedroom door creak open. I didn't even look back. I threw open the front door, set off his house alarm, and bolted to my car. I was shaking so bad I could barely get the keys in the ignition, but as soon as I did, I floored it out of there. On the drive home, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, half expecting him to be following me. Every pair of headlights made my stomach drop. When I finally got home, I locked every door and window and just sat there, trying to calm down. I don't even want to think about what might have happened if I'd stayed the night. A couple of years ago, my friend Mia was looking for her first apartment. She'd just finished college and wasn't ready to move in with her boyfriend yet. So, she started checking out Craigslist for places. She wanted something affordable, which, let's be real, is hard to find these days. After a week of searching, she found an ad that seemed perfect. A house with a private room and bathroom, only $300 a month. The person who posted the ad said they were a 24-year-old woman looking for a female roommate because they weren't comfortable living with guys. Pretty normal, right? The only weird thing was that the listing only had one picture, a blurry shot of the house's exterior. Mia didn't think much of it and emailed the poster. Within an hour, she got a reply. The girl introduced herself as Lila and said she worked late hours, so she couldn't meet during the day. Instead, she asked Mia to come by at 8 p.m. to check out the house. It seemed a little odd, but Mia thought, hey, people work weird schedules. No big deal. That evening, Mia pulled up to the house. It looked average. The yard was unkept, the windows were dusty, and the porch light was out. There was a handwritten note taped to the front door. Use the back entrance, main door broken. That should have been a giant red flag. But Mia figured the girl was just busy and hadn't gotten around to fixing it. She walked around to the back, knocked on the door, and waited. The door opened. But instead of a 24-year-old woman, there was a guy standing there. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept in days. Unshaven, messy clothes, and this weird energy that immediately made Mia's stomach twist. The guy smiled and said, "Hey, sorry, Lila's working late. I own the place. She asked me to show you around. At that point, Mia's gut was screaming something's wrong, but she didn't want to seem rude, so she followed him inside. The place was empty. No furniture, no decorations, nothing. It looked like no one had lived there in years. When Mia asked about it, the guy just said, "Oh, Lila's in the process of moving her stuff in." He showed her the kitchen and the bedroom she'd be renting, but he kept rushing her, like he didn't want her to linger in any one spot for too long. The only light in the house was from the kitchen, so the rest of the place was dark, and he didn't bother turning any lights on as they walked around. Then they got to a door at the end of the hallway. It was shut tight, and Mia could see there was a padlock on it. She asked, "What's in there?" And the guy immediately tensed up. "That's Lila's room," he said quickly. "She's really private about her stuff." That's when Mia started to feel seriously freaked out. She told him she had enough of a look and needed to think about it before deciding. But just as she started heading for the back door, he said, "Wait, I forgot to show you the basement. It's really nice. Great for storage or a rec room." He opened the basement door, and it swung out toward her, blocking the back door. The basement was pitch black. He gestured toward the stairs with a grin and said, "Ladies first." Thank God Mia's phone buzzed right then. Thinking fast, she pretended to take a call. "Oh, you're here already? Okay, I'll come outside," she said loudly, as if someone was waiting for her. The guy's face dropped, and he stepped back as she brushed past him. She power walked out of the house, but as soon as she was outside, she ran for her car like her life depended on it. She didn't even look back to see if he was watching. When she got home, she told her boyfriend everything. He was furious and called the police. They went to investigate, but by the time they got there, the Craigslist ad had been deleted and the house was empty. The weirdest part? The house had been foreclosed on months earlier. There was no Leela. The police found evidence someone had been squatting there: dirty blankets, empty food containers, and piles of trash. In the basement, they found something even more disturbing. A thin wire tied at shin level across the stairs, an old broomstick wrapped in duct tape, and rolls of duct tape nearby. Mia still shudders when she thinks about what could have happened if she'd gone down those stairs. Moral of the story: trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is, and maybe skip Craigslist for your next roommate.